Okay. Good morning. I appreciate you all staying and being around for this presentation. I'm excited to present to you all some things that we've been working on. About a year and a half ago, I was asked to take a look at our Bible study program. And before I forget, let me go ahead and raise your hand if you're daily Bible readers so they can get the count as they're coming down. But I was asked to look at our Bible study program and brainstorm some ways to improve and change and all that. And so what I want to show you today is what we've come up with. Before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and start with the word of prayer. And Barry, would you mind? As I was saying, I'm grateful for the opportunity to present this to you. I'm also thankful to the elders for their willingness to not be afraid to change some things, to try to look for maybe better ways to go about some things as time goes by. And I think that's what this represents, is an opportunity to look at a way to change presentation to our children to benefit them more, and I appreciate their willingness to do that. As I get started, I do want to say I'm happy to take questions about this as we move along, but if you'll hold those till later, because I want to make sure I get through it all. I don't have a whole lot of time, and I want to make sure I get the important stuff to you. And I'll give you my email address, phone number, everything at the end. And if we have time at the end, I'll be happy to answer some questions. But I want to make sure we get all the important stuff gone through. And finally, I want to say thank you to those who are in the curriculum writing group. I know you all have seen announcements along the way that we're having a curriculum writing meeting and so forth. There's a number who have been assisting with that, and I'm grateful. I'm not going to try to list them off because I will miss somebody. But I'm sure as time goes by, you'll probably see who some of them are, as indicated later. But before we get started in the program itself, I guess I could have brought that one up first. That's what we're doing. Okay. I want to lay the groundwork for why this is so important. I think the first and foremost thing is Scripture, Bible study is important. It's important to all of us. We are commanded to gather together to worship. Inherently in that is studying the Bible, but as oftentimes in most other places, there has been an extra time period set aside for us to have Bible study. And we should remember that we need to place as much emphasis, if not more, on our Bible studies as we do on school studies. I have been a perpetual student, as Chrissy will tell you. She's told me I'm not allowed to go back to school anymore now that I've graduated most recently. So I find education important. But as much as I find that important, I find Bible study more so. Because they're both, as much importance as they both are, only one has eternal consequences. And we need to keep that in mind as we plan to teach our children. Deuteronomy chapter 6, and I'm going to start in verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. And verse 7 is important. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on your doorposts of your house and on your gates. The same concept is repeated over in Deuteronomy chapter 11. But the concept is essentially the words of the Lord should ever be in front of us. It is our collective responsibility to teach the young people of the church. Some other scriptures that I'm sure you're aware of, Proverbs 22:6, train up a child with the way it should go, and they won't depart from it. Paraphrase, obviously. 2 Timothy is one of those that should stand out to us when we think about teaching our young. If you go over to 2 Timothy, we see where Paul specifically points out how his mother and grandmother had taught Timothy from a young age. 2 Timothy chapter 1 in verse 5. When I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that is in you always. Essential reference later in chapter 3 and verse 14. But you must continue in the things which you have learned and been assured of, knowing from whom you have learned them, and that from childhood you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith, which is in Christ Jesus. I think what stands out there, and for our purposes today, is from childhood you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation. Our children cannot know what's expected of them from God unless they are taught. And it is our responsibility as parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, whatever we may be, or just friends, brothers and sisters in Christ, to teach the children of our congregations, lest they fall away as they grow older. We could go through more scriptures and lay the foundation, but I think the point is made, and we will move on. So what's new? One of our concerns as we got to looking at our Bible study curriculum is that we are buying materials from resource centers, and though many of them are quality materials, ever more often we're seeing things creep into them that we don't agree with, or that we don't feel like are following the Scriptures as they should. So what we are doing here as we implement this program is I have gathered together these curriculum writing members, and we are writing our own material for this congregation. We have mapped out what we want our children to know as they grow in the church here, and these curriculum writing members are writing the materials as the past year and a half they've been working on it, and it's going to continue for the next probably year and a half or so as we add on years. And you'll see what I mean for that in just a moment. But these are materials that we can trust because members here have read them. Other members are going to have the opportunity to look through them. And we know what's been taught. There's a plan that's been laid out, a schedule of curriculum that we're going to follow from year after year. So what this means is the lesson basics are done. You're not going to, as teachers, you're not going to just get, a page or just a topic. You're going to have, and I've got an example here, a binder that's going to have lessons in it. There's going to be a binder for a teacher, and there's going to be a binder kept in the library downstairs for the times where teachers are sick or whatever, can't be there. But throughout the binder, you'll have lessons for each week throughout the quarter. So for the most part, the class is done for you. Now you have the opportunity to add to enrich, to alter. As you get into a class and you see what a class works better with, you can change, or you can just go with what the material has in front of you. That was our goal here, to create materials to where somebody, even inexperienced teachers, maybe who have been afraid to step into a Bible study classroom, you can take this material and go with it and not have to worry about, do I know enough to be able to teach these children? It's our hope, our goal is that it's laid out for you. So that's one big change, is that we're going to have it here, written by our people in this congregation, and available all the time. Another problem that we've had with the material that we're buying is we don't get it till, a couple weeks before the quarter starts. With this material, our goal is you're going to have it. It's going to be downstairs. You're going to be able to take that binder whenever you want to and start working with your class. You're going to know a year from now what you're going to be teaching. The second thing that we're going to alter, and that is making it Sunday and Wednesday rotations. And let me explain what I mean and tell you why. What we have been doing here is there's a teacher for Sunday morning and a teacher for Wednesday night. And they're teaching different material. There's a couple of problems that we've run into with that. Number one, Michael has to get the teachers together. And whenever you have a different teacher Sunday morning and Wednesday night, that's twice as many teachers for any given quarter that he has to round up. And that's becoming ever more difficult. The second thing is, and this is coming from my education background, you're teaching two different materials in a week. And although that's, you start to think, well, that's more they're getting in 1 week. But the problem with that is a lot of times you don't get done on Sunday. And then there's new material on Wednesday. And then maybe on Sunday morning you might go back, but then you've got more material that you want to teach on Sunday. With Sunday and Wednesday rotations, we fixed both of those problems. Michael only has to get one teacher for the grade level for the quarter. And two, the lessons can be continuous from week to week. There was one concern that we had about, so does this mean we're going to write a new lesson or present a new lesson Sunday and Wednesday? That's not the goal. The goal is you present the lesson on Sunday. If you'll notice in these folders, and as we get more in the library, everyone's welcome to look at them. But as you notice, there's 13 lessons. It's a 13-week quarter. The goal is to present the lessons on Sunday morning. Wednesday night, you review, and you do activities to emphasize that lesson. So you're still only teaching one subject a week. You're just going to do it Sunday and Wednesday. But what that allows is for us to only lock you in for 1 quarter per year. So instead of having to do 13 weeks in the winter and then 13 weeks in the summer, our hope, our goal, if we recruit enough of you to fill teaching slots, is you'll teach Sunday and Wednesday for a quarter, and then you'll be done. You won't get stuck in a classroom for the entire year. You'll do Sunday, Wednesday for 13 weeks, and then you're done until your quarter comes around again. And the third new thing is our grade levels. And I don't have a watch on me, so I don't know what my time looks like. I'm going to speed up then. We're going to keep the rotation of birth to 2-year-olds, 2 and 3-year-olds, 4 and 5-year-olds. And then once we hit kindergarten, we're turning into a 3-year rotation. That way we can enlarge the class sizes a little bit. Congregation our size, what we're seeing is when we have just the 2 grades per class level, we're having 1, maybe 2 kids in a couple of classes. From what I'm seeing as I'm looking at our students right now, this will allow us to have a more full class size. And so it'll be kindergarten through 2nd grade, 3rd through 5th, 6th through 8th, and then we'll have the high school class as normal. And then the lessons will be repeated each rotation. So this is what I meant by you'll know years out what you're teaching. Let me explain what this means. I know you can't read the words, but just kind of follow along with what I'm talking about here. If you could see, and some of you may be able to see, this is 2 and 3 year olds, year 2. And there's a fall, winter, spring, summer quarter. So if you were teaching 2 and 3 year olds, and you're teaching the fall quarter of 2 and 3 year olds, you would have a year 1 fall quarter, and then you'd have a year 2 fall quarter. Well, since after those 2 years your kids would rotate out, we can go back to year 1. So after you've taught 2 and 3 year olds for 2 years, you've taught the material you're going to teach every year. So in your 3rd year of teaching, you're going to go back and you're going to repeat year 1 fall quarter. So what does that do? Well, it allows you to teach the quarter once, and then the next year you know how it went. You know, well, that worked well or that didn't, and you can adjust your quarter as time goes by. This works because, as I said, as promotion quarters go, kids age out of the classes, and so they won't hear the material multiple times. You'll teach it multiple times, but they won't hear the material multiple times. This allows us to map out what we want the kids to learn as they go through their ages, or as they age through the classes. And that works for all the grade levels. Now, obviously, with the kindergarten, 2nd grade, and the 3rd through 5th grade, it's a 3-year rotation, so you have to teach 3 years before you started repeating, but you would eventually start repeating the same way. I know that might be confusing. If it is, I can show you the curriculum map if anybody's interested. It's free for you to look at. And then finally, as far as this goes, for starting in 3rd grade and up, we're going to do Bible Bowl quarters. We have had, it's hard, I know, for you parents to help your students, your children, looking at Bible material. We want to encourage Bible Bowl participation. And so for the summer quarter every year, 3rd through 5th grade, or 3rd through high school, we're going to teach Bible Bowl material in their classes, Sunday and Wednesday nights. And so those quarters will generally be done by the individuals who typically help at Bible Bowl. But just so you're aware, we're going to incorporate, since we do Bible Bowl every year, we're going to incorporate that into our Bible study program. And so hopefully encourage students, they're going to be exposed to the material on Sunday and Wednesday throughout the quarter leading up to Bible Bowl anyway. Hopefully that will encourage them to go ahead and participate in the event. And then there's a 6th or 8th. Like I said, I know you can't read that really from where you're sitting probably, but if you'd like to look at it and see what the lessons are, you're welcome to see that. You just have to just ask. Okay, so this comes to the plea. I debated putting beg up there, but plea sounds better. We need teachers. We need help. I do believe it is our collective responsibility to teach our children. I do believe that the primary responsibility is on parents to teach their children at home. But as members of the body of Christ, I do also believe that Titus teaches us that it's our collective responsibility. Titus chapter 2 talks about the older men and the older women and the younger men and the younger women, and how the older women are to teach the younger women certain things. As you progress through that chapter, you can look at that. But I think it's our collective responsibility. Plus, there are statistics out there that show the more contacts children have as they age through a congregation, the more personal contacts they have with individuals outside of their family unit, the more likely they are to stay with the church. And that makes sense. If the more you're associated with, the more friends you have in an organization, the more likely you are to remain with that organization. That works for the church. That's why we want multiple teachers to be in these children's classes throughout a year, to have those personal contacts with our children. We all want our children to remain faithful to the church, to the Lord as they grow older. The more contacts they have, the more people they know who care about them, the more likely that will happen. We have had, I'm not going to say complaints, I'm going to say concerns that it's hard to teach, it's hard to agree to teach because you feel like you get stuck in the class for quarter after quarter, year after year. We want to alleviate that. That's the whole point in doing the Sunday, Wednesday for one quarter and be done. We don't need a whole lot of teachers to jump on board and do this. I think for the entire program, birth through 8th grade, we need somewhere around 28 or 30 individuals. And that's for the entire year. Now, I know there are some of you who may want to do more quarters. And if you do, that's fine. But we don't want to make this something where you get stuck and you feel like you're there and you're not able to come up and participate in the adult classes. I want all of you to be able to participate in the adult classes. I don't want you to be stuck. The guys are passing out a form for you to fill out. Everybody take one, and I'll let you know why in just a minute, but if everybody will take one, whether you're willing to teach or not, go ahead and take one, and I'll let you know why whenever I get to the next slide. Requirements, basically members of this congregation and be out of high school. We can use young and old to help teach these classes. High school students obviously want you in the high school class, but from then on, we would love to have you teaching. Obviously, special call to experienced Bible study teachers, those of you who have taught for years or in the past, and school teachers, secular school teachers. You have special talents that you can utilize in these class settings. Matthew 25, obviously a parable of the talents to use the talents that we have. I think that's part of our responsibility. But not just the experience. We want new teachers. We want to expand to new teachers because we've got to replace teachers as time goes by. You're not left alone. If you're new to teaching Bible study classes, don't be afraid to jump in and sign up to do one. You're not going to be left alone. The materials have been written by members here, so you're going to have access to the people who wrote the materials. So if you have a question about it, you don't have to wonder. You can go to the person who wrote it. We'll let you know, and you can ask them, what did you mean when you had this activity with this lesson? You're going to have that resource available to you. It is my goal to incorporate some work days or some workshops, maybe some Saturdays as we're getting ready to get started with the quarter for myself and others to be here, for you to come in and talk about your lessons. And what are some ideas? How do you think you could help with a certain lesson? And we'll be happy to do that. And then I'm working on the library downstairs. I've got some shelving in there. I'm working on getting some supplies. I'm going to try to turn that into more of a teacher workroom with reproducibles on the shelves, supplies in the room for you to have easy access to when you need it for your classrooms. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to be working on to accentuate our Bible study periods that we have. We have a very short time, about 30 minutes for a class period. So we want to get as much out of that as we can. Of course, that does lead me to another thing. You're only, it's only 30 minutes on Sunday and 30 minutes on Wednesday. And trust me, the time goes by quickly. So if you're afraid of being in there with the kids and not knowing how to keep their attention for 30 minutes, I promise you 30 minutes goes by a lot quicker than you realize. So don't be afraid. The questionnaire. What time is it? Okay. Good. Questionnaire. I would like for everyone to fill one out. One, I don't know if I got one to you if I don't get one back from you. And so for me not to pester you or ask you for it again, if you could just go ahead and fill one out so that I know you've seen it and you've filled out your preferences, that way I've got it. If you're willing to teach, and I hope that you Select the time of year and the age or ages that you are willing to teach. And if you're willing to teach any time, any age group, check box every one of them. If because of your job or because of your any given situation in your life, a certain quarter works better for you, check that quarter. Same goes for age levels. I want to mention one other thing with age levels. From birth through 5-year-olds, there's going to be 2 teachers in each class. That is our goal, to have 2 in each class. So if you're, once again, that age, I know that's, I would probably be afraid. But for that age, if you're kind of concerned about being in there by yourself, you won't be. We're going to work. Our goal is to have 2 teachers in there each quarter. So you're welcome to sign up. Check off those younger grades for that. At the bottom, you will see lines for the children. If you have children who attend here and come to Bible studies, please fill out their names and their either age or grade level. If they're not in school, put their age. And this is what they will be. I should have mentioned this first because I'm sure some of you already filled out. What they will be in September when they start the next school year. What grade will they be? What age will they be in September? I need to know this so that I can plan out classroom sizes, things like that. And we especially need male teachers for the 6th or 8th grade in particular. So if you are a male and you're halfway interested in teaching, that's the age level that we need you in. Okay. If I heard the first bell, so they're going to ring the next one here very shortly. If you have questions, there's my phone number and my email address. You're welcome to call me or email me with questions, and I'll be glad to talk to you about the program if you have questions or concerns. As far as teacher assignments, Michael is your guy. I'm going to get these forms, and I'm going to give them to Michael. And Michael's going to start mapping out our teachers for the grade levels. So if you have any certain particulars that you need as far as your teaching assignment, Michael's the guy to talk to with that. If I could have, I'm sure most of you are probably about done with the forms. I'm not sure if I could have the guys who handed them out. If you all could pass the or I don't know how the easiest way to do this, whether pass it or just make sure you give it to either Eric or Jeff. That's fine. If you're not done, just lay it off. If you are, give it to one of these guys, and that'll be it. I appreciate you guys listening, and I hope that you are willing to help us out with our kids. Thanks a lot.